I've been working more on my project and I have gotten a lever system, but also interaction system technically. So, as the test will show, we have multiple different versions. One being a simple one and done lever that when you pull would activate. The other ones would be this one. It's a requirement of 2 to be pulled to be complete. This is the same thing, except I'm just going to show you one little thing. And if you're not going to pull the other lever in time, then it resets. So as long as you pull them in time, it will complete. Now, if I wanted to, I'll go ahead and show you the blueprints on that now. I'll also go ahead and I'll show the stud system too. So if I go over to interaction, for now it's a mess all over the place, mainly because I've been really trying to make sure that everything works. But anyway, the main important thing is that on begin play, it goes ahead and connects to the Lego main character, which then, as long as it's either connecting to them or not, it would set interactable to true or false, and that is based around in the player. So if I go to characters, base Lego N, you can see here that if it is true when you press the interact button, it goes ahead and calls in the interact script. And of course, just to note it down, as a little extra failsafe for colliding with specific ones and not activating them all and all that, we have this little extra bonus part here just to double check that it's colliding with interactable specific one. If I were to go back to here, we can move a bunch of this anyway. So on begin play, it goes ahead and calls that as a variable, and then also grabs an instance of game instance. This could get removed, but for now I need to go over a lot of things just to make sure that that is not necessary anymore. But anyway, whenever the player interacts, so from that call event, it will go ahead and cause a timeline which is linked to this actor locator. And this is essentially the system that moves the player towards the lever. So if I hit play, you can see that if I move to the furthest point, it makes it more obvious. It moves the player towards it. As you can see in here, I need to make an update to this so that it also rotates the player and then also plays the pull lever animation. How I'm going to do the animation is a big, I don't know just yet. So I don't think I'm going to implement the animation side just yet. Anyway, but while the animation is playing, it disables the player's input, so you can't move. And of course, simple movement system just to move the player. Then we have the input, which enables again afterwards, and will then do this bool system. Now, what this is a part of the modular system behind it. So in here, we can see the lever that doesn't require multiple has this tick for single required and no elements for an array. This basically makes it so that if that's the case, pull lever, it will activate instantly. It doesn't do any of this. But if it is a multiple requirement, it will go ahead and do an interact checker, but also a timer event. Now, this is what's mainly important about getting the button, the lever to turn back off and reset. And if I just quickly move over here just for a moment, the activate is, of course, linked there, but for now, it's a simple print string and a simple activate system. Um, I think for now I don't need to change this. Not until I implement the actual activations, like the doors or cutscenes, maybe even item spawning. It's open for me to just work on what to spawn, and so are having these events here, uh, allowing me to do things for a child class, for instance. So if I go over to interact checker, it calls this. So let's go to the actual child class. So this is a child class of interaction, and as you can see, most things utilize the link to parents. Like, for instance, interact, which was this main script here, does both that and this, which, to explain it, it will start off with playing the animation for rotating this center lever here. So if I were to move it around, you can see it moves the lever perfectly. And that is a simple one and done, simple old lerp, rotate from one to the other vector. Then it goes ahead and adds the current lever that you've pulled into the variable of total levers, and then activates a mini activate boolean, which is important for this layer part here. So if I get rid of this, it will go ahead and, well, for now, once it's activated, it will check this, but because this will just be false, it would set the lever to no collision and temporarily have the material of that LED change to green. But, like I mentioned, because it's a multiple system, so it does this event here, it calls event interact checker, which simply gets access to the other interacts that you create from the editor. Like, for instance, if I click here, we have a link towards this lever here, and this one has a link towards that lever there. And if I wanted to, I'll add more and to the list. But for now, I'll leave it at 2, and I'll continue testing another time. But as I was saying, so whenever it goes ahead and grabs access to that, it of course adds the one additional thing to the length to make sure that it counts the one that you're pulling. But it will go ahead and it will detect through each of these if the mini active has been set true. And if the activate has been set true, it will then, of course, add one more additional thing to the total levers. And if once it's done the loop system, it will go ahead and detect if all of them, plus one, have been added up equally to the length. And if so, it will cause the activate script. The rest of this, like I say, is activate. So it does that, but if I go over to lever, it does a bit more. What happens in the case of the lever is it grabs access to each body of interactions plus self by adding the additional. And with each element of that array, so with each single one of those interactions, it will go ahead and do this for all of them. It would set them to full activate so that the full activation could work. For this instance, it would destroy the box collision, so you cannot pull it again. It would set the material to on, and then, of course, it will clear the timer that was made in the interaction system. So it will stop that timer to prevent it from being able to be turned off. This is no longer important, so I can get rid of these. And then, of course, the turn off system is simple. It's just Basically the inverse, where it'll go ahead and it will remove one from the total levers to discount the one that you've just pulled. And then it would set the mini actives to off so it can be pulled again. And then, of course, for each loop of the array, it will call the reverse event, which is this here, that will just reverse the animation. And of course, another instance where I can get rid of stuff. It will then, of course, set the material back to off and collision enabled again. So if I wanted to, let's do a quick test just to see if this still does work. So let's change this to that and change this to that. And let's see. Does it work when all three have been pulled? Okay. So it does call the complete event, but there seems to be one miniature little bug that I'll have to go over and see if I can fix. But anyway, to go over things that I didn't explain before, the Lego stud. With the Lego stud system, how it works is we have the base sphere collision with the model, and of course it has its own little element. What happens is on begin play, we'll go ahead and call the event of a loop to spin the actor. And then of course I can adjust the speed of which from the spin speed. And then of course, if the stud is to be simulatable to physics, we'll have it so that it will set simulate physics here. Otherwise, if it's, for example, from the actor generator, with each distance of that I set to 200, it will spawn in the spawn actor that you choose, which in this instance, if I chose it to be a Lego stud, it will cast to the Lego stud and disable physics so that it would stay floating and spinning. Of course, I do need to change some things around with that because technically Lego studs often didn't follow physics exactly. They still were locked rotating, but they still had some physics. I'll go over it in a future video when I research by playing the previous games to show what I mean a bit more. But anyway, if the stud collides with the player, it will go ahead and do this only once so that it would collect the stud count and then destroy actor, which stud count is in the base Lego man. This allows it to just be easily saved. What I'd need to do is I'd need to connect this to the game instance. And what I'd need to do is make it so that at the end of the level, it will save the current stud count into the data. Hopefully, if I add the count, yeah, it will hopefully save into the stud count, and then that could be used to show a global stud count. But anyway, that's that. And if I go to the children classes, you can see we have all the different studs, which are simply just child classes of it with an additional thing here for checking the stud worth, which as you saw, it adds based on stud worth. And each one has their own worth. And of course, their models have been changed around to be accurate to the games. What I'll need to do next also, besides the global thing, is I want to do a system so that the UI element here changes accordingly to what Lego piece you recently collected, because of course for now it doesn't do such. Lego also has an animation that usually follows with that to make it so that you where the Lego piece is collected, it would basically move that piece into the UI, I'm unsure exactly how I'm going to do that just yet. What I might do is a system so that it would grab the location, but base it around your UI screen, and it will transfer the world position towards the camera and allow it to be perfectly placed where you picked it up, and then of course an animation that moves it to the UI element. Again, I'll have to go over a bunch of things about that to make sure that it's perfect, but that's that. I don't believe there's anything else to mention for now that I haven't already. Of course, there's the door and such, which is also a child of the interaction system, though this one will be definitely changed around a lot. I also might do camera-based activators, but that depends on how I'm going to go about it. Then after that, there's not much else to note down besides what I have planned in the future, which I've kind of already strewn about it already, what I have planned, but we basically have ideas for fixing a few things with the studs more, definitely fixing that weird bug with the lever, and then the UI elements for the studs. But stuff that I haven't mentioned is the player attacking system. I want it so that whenever you click, it does a punch, but whenever you hold, it does a shoot, which that works. But what I wanted to do is I need a way to make it so that when you go into shoot, it goes into a aiming mode, and from there adds like a UI element, but also changes the mapping context of the player so that they can move around the a like icon on the UI that pops up. And whenever that icon is hovering on a specific area, like a interactable object, it would then highlight it. And once you release in Lego games, it normally ends up just firing something towards that area. Or for the case of the Batarang, it will cause a Batarang to throw around and it would create a trajectory which ultimately still ends up hitting that object. In my instance, though, I wanted to shoot a portal gun. And to go about that, I'll explain in a future video plus possible diagrams to explain how I'm going to go about that. I especially need to do diagrams because I need to do it for my technical design document. But anyway, that's that. And I'll update you next time.